All right, it's been a crazy day already. Got home from work, had to replace our GE microwave, which was brand new when we moved into the house, what, 2.5 years ago-ish. Yeah, garbage. Had to order a new one of those. Got home, put that in. Of course, they keep exact same part number. They changed the bracket. Ends up taking way more time than it should have to, you know. Why, heaven forbid it's the same and a guy could just bolt it up, but no, never that easy. Anyway, got that done. Now, I've had this project sitting here for a couple of days. The person is on vacation out of town, but I need to get some struts put on it and some front brakes put on it. So we've got some complete strut assemblies, some front brake pads and rotors, and sway bar links because those are attached to the strut. And I didn't figure we're gonna be able to get them off. So, yeah. Let's see if we can bust this little Buick out tonight. So it looks like to get the upper struts, tops off, we gotta pull this wiper cowl section. Means we gotta pull the wiper arms, make sure they're in their down position, and you're not touching the key or moving anything while you're doing it. So we'll pull this cowling off so we can get to the strut top hardware, and then once we get that up and loose, then we'll jack this thing up, pull the wheels off, and start working underneath. All right, so I got that wiper arm cap popped up. There's a little tab on the end of it here, which I got behind with a flat screwdriver. You gotta pop that cap up, and that gives you access to the nut underneath. So gonna get the other one popped up, and then we'll grab a tool and get the arms off here. All right, so the nuts on those arms were 15 millimeter. Got those pulled off. Now we'll get a hold of the arms and see if we can get those wiggled off of there, and then move on to removing the cowling. Looks like it's got some of the like double push fasteners. So we'll get our little fork tool, pop the heads up on those, see if we can get this cowling off of there. All right, and once you have the little push pop fasteners all removed, and they ended up being the Christmas tree style, just a couple of them had heads on them that were flanged so you could actually get your tool in them. I don't know if somebody's been in here before and replaced them. It looks like possibly there's a junkyard part numbers on the wiper motor, so these may or may not be what you have on yours. But then you have access to the strut top hardware, which is a big nut and a Torx headed tool in the strut top itself. So, yeah, see if we can hold one and twist the other. So we're gonna spray some penetrating oil on those because they are kind of crusty looking, and hopefully we have some success with getting them loose. And we have success. So the 24 millimeter nut and then that cap plate, and they spun right off. I didn't even have to get the Torx out actually. So I don't know if it was the penetrating oil or the Milwaukee or just an insane amount of luck, but they actually spun off of there. Hallelujah. Now we'll get this thing jacked up and get to work underneath. So we got it jacked up and safely supported on some jack stands under there. And as we jacked it up, with those bolts out, the struts start to come down onto the top. We're gonna get the wheels off and start getting to work. Okay, so to be fair, I already have the other side done, and you'll notice the brake caliper is off on this side. When I pulled the wheels off, I found by trying to squeeze the brake caliper, you know, leverage it to get it off, the brake calipers were seized. The slide pins on both sides were seized up, and hence the brakes were really only using the inside. There's a huge divot worn on the inside of the rotor. Not sure if you can tell or not. However, just the inside pad was working. Noticed that, and it was getting close to closing time for the auto parts store. So I went ahead and ripped it apart real quick, ran down and got some new calipers, and then got back and got to work and kind of forgot to start a video again, honestly. But so that side's pretty much put together. So we're on this side. So there's a T30 Torx screw holding the rotor to the hub. So I put that bit in there. I actually have one that fits in my 1/4-inch ratchet. So I put that in there and tapped the end of it with a hammer a few times to kind of break free anything, and was able to get that spun out, thankfully. The bolts that are holding the spindle to the strut are 21 millimeter. They you spin the nuts off, and the bolt head side has actually got like some serrations in it, so that you can't spin it with a wrench, so to speak. You need to take a punch and drive those 2 bolts out. As far as the sway bar link, the other side actually already had a newer aftermarket replacement on it. This side does not, so I'm going to replace this one. The other one was in great shape. It looked to be really fairly recent. So I was able to get it apart. This side we're going to have to replace, but no big deal. So I don't know what size this is yet. It looks to be 18 millimeter, which is what the factory one was, which shouldn't be too big of a problem. Again, as with any of these jobs, make sure when you take this apart, you don't hyperextend your CV axle and have issues with that. And make sure that you pull the brake hose and ABS lines free from their bracketry so that you don't stretch those. You don't want to hurt any of that stuff. But all in all, not too horrible. I'm going to go ahead and do what I just said, get this strut swapped out, and touch base when we get things put back together. Okay, so I was able to swap out that sway bar link on this side. The 18 millimeter nut was the correct size. And then I was able to use some vice grips to hold it on the other side. The factory, for whatever reason, thinks that that Torx end is a good idea and don't utilize a flat spot for you to put a wrench on the inside. However, the Moog aftermarket ones that we have a nice flat spot there. So you can hold a wrench on one side, wrench on the other side. Again, both 18 millimeter, and much, much smoother way to do things. So here we got the new strut next to the old strut. So we're gonna get this new strut bolted into place and get all the brake lines clipped back in their corresponding places where they belong, and keep plugging away. Okay, so here we are, bolted back together. Went ahead and took advantage of everything being open and accessible and pumped some grease into that new sway bar link. Also hit the other side because the wheels are off and it was easy to get to. Everything's bolted back in with the new FCS brand struts that we put in here. The new provided top plate is installed, as well as the nut they provided, which was a 22 millimeter as opposed to the factory 24 millimeter. Other than that, everything kind of bolted up quick and easy. Now I'm gonna see if I can get an extra foot over here, help me get some brakes bled, and we'll take it for a ride. And hopefully it rides, it handles a lot better, and stops a lot better. Just like that. Car's all set to go. Wheels back on. Took it for a test drive. No more clunks or rattles. Stops nice. Another job done.